It is Monday, December 6th, 2021, and welcome to Perspectives. Wherever you are joining us this morning, the broadcast entities carrying us live, MTV on air and online, our own Perspectives page, Party Grenada, TNR Communications, the brothers and sisters viewing on our sister isle in Carriacou, those of you in the diaspora, a good morning to you, a special good morning. I know it's an hour earlier for those of you, especially our friends on the East Coast. Good morning, I am Brenda Baptiste. Welcome everyone. It's an overcast Monday here in St. George's, Grenada, but we're still located on Paradise, and for that we give thanks. And it's now time to say a special good morning to our special talk panel of Senator Christopher Allie and Mr. Byron Campbell. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Brenda. Good morning to our viewers and listeners. And Paradise are going to take.
Yeah.
Take that.
Yeah, man.
You know, we're getting some weather. Yes,
So
we didn't get much rain in November. We're getting some in December. So, yeah, you have to be happy to take what you get when you get it. Byron, we take
Of course, you know, we expected a lot. Morning, good morning, morning. Yes, November was a bit dry, but we need the rain because, I mean, the dry season can come in early, like January, February, we don't know for sure, but it's coming, and therefore, if you look at the rivers, our levels is quite low, so we do need that. NASA will tell you that they need as much rain as they can get. So I think everyone welcomes this particular. It may not be perfect for some crops that you have, but generally it's welcome.
And I saw the minister.
Makes good. It's perfect for sleeping.
Yeah.
Yes. I saw the minister announce they're now going into biological control for the scale insect, which is, I suspect, welcome news for farmers as well, apart from augmenting the spraying program, of course.
It is, but keep in mind that wherever you introduce this biological insect, the ladybird beetle, which is an excellent predator to the scale insect, you can't apply some sprays, most of the ones. But I think it's a good start. I know it's an expensive operation, but it's really needed. I think the next stage is to what extent farmers or the major agents here could be allowed to import these beetles, because we need to really, it has to be a drive, like a campaign, because as we've discussed before, this croton scale insect has the ability or the potential to decimate, to destroy our tropical fruit industry, like the soursop, the golden apple, the guava, mangoes, the major ones. And so I'm pleased to see this particular development by the government of Grenada, by the ministry, and so we look forward to see it spreading, you know, and taking hold of this dangerous insect.
It's so interesting because as a young girl, there was a lot of these ladybug beetles around, and you always wondered. I mean, it just when I heard, because I heard a little bit of the minister's presentation, and when he was alluding to that, and I felt empowered because you told us so much here on the show about the scaling and so on. So I felt like, yeah, man, I know that information. But I'm making the point to say that it just goes to show that for everything that's in our environment, plant life, animal life, you know, whatever, there is a purpose. Because who knew that the ladybug beetle would be that important, you know?
There was one time fogging was accused, allegedly, I don't know for sure, the science supports it, of running the ladybugs and reducing the population, and then they adjusted the fogging
downwards. So we have to reach a balance, because I don't think it's a kind of insect that you'll be able to eradicate, but if you get your natural predators up to a level, then you can control this.
Natural predators, are they safer as opposed to something like the fogging?
Well, yeah, because it is known, and this has been tried, because a lot of major countries, the United States, and it's not surprising this has been imported from the United States, where it's a commercial item that farmers and householders purchase and release in ladybugs. And there are others, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's not the only one. But it's proven that it is a beneficial insect. It's the same way you have beneficial earthworms and other things that are important for your soil. So if you, for the soil,
exactly.
So if you spray too much or apply too much chemicals, you destroy it and you reduce the quality of your soil.
You change the balance again.
Balance, exactly. So the ecology is important to maintain that, this important balance. So kudos for the ministry. I think it's an excellent move, and it's one we'd like to see extend.
Yeah, interesting.
Well, I want to say here on this program this morning that I want to wish Mr. Richard Duncan happy retirement. And the reason I'm bringing it up, I think this is a gentleman that has served us well in Grenada in various capacities. When he, took up his position at Cooperative Bank, he came from the Ministry of Finance. And that is an interesting thing. This is one of the few civil servants that transitioned from public service to private. Yeah. And how he has done that successfully, and I think it's something that needs to be emulated and something we need to look at.
Quality of the human.
Yeah, how you transition from one to the other and make the impression he has. I mean, he was, I think, one of the first chairmen that we had when we had introduced the FROC and did an excellent job with his team. So Richard has contributed a lot to us in Grenada as an individual and as a team player through his business institution. So I think is worthy of note, and I want to wish him the best in his retirement. I mean, I've been told that our ECCB governor tell him he ain't there for resting for long.
I agree. I agree.
Still have a lot to contribute.
Yes.
He's a good mind, solid mind, and I really, when you can reach that age, Byron, and you have gotten there and you continue to work and retire and have all the cognitive parts of your physiology in place, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's important. I mean, I join with you, Chris, and all the country in congratulating,
celebrating the gentleman,
celebrating him. And you can see the growth of the institution. Where he's brought it to. I mean, the evidence is there.
So it's no longer the penny bank; it's the dollar bank.
And he has lent the services to other national causes, and I think this count, I don't see him only as a corporate professional, but I see him as a kind of social scientist, progressive individual.
Being president of Rotary International and all that.
And there's no doubt he will continue to make his contribution. Absolutely.
Yeah, we must celebrate our people before they die.
Absolutely.
I would like to join in that as well. Full disclosure, he's one of my favorite humans. So I would like to use the word retirement for somebody that is vivacious, that is as brilliant as Richard W. Duncan is. But anyway, thank you so much for your service to Grenada Cooperative Bank. When he started, there was the penny bank, as you said. So that was just like a cooperative. Now it's a big first world institution, quickly acquiring other big banks who once colonialized us. So that feels good. I think his stint there was both innovative and transformative. I was looking at some of the testimonials of the staff members, and it was just over and over and over. And it just seemed like at the end, the hallmark of his leadership was that what he did as a leader was bring out the best in his team, and of course that transcended into what the institution became. And so for that, you should feel good. It's not retirement. You finish that leg, on to the next leg. Talking about legs, and now you're going to do some more dancing, right? And you could stay home and watch the whole of Perspectives, right? So great job. And I see all... And I agree with the governor of the central bank, because Mr. Duncan, whenever you spoke to Mr. Duncan, it wasn't just about the Co-op Bank, the brand he worked and represented, but he played a pivotal role in the financial services industry in Grenada. Lots of folks could call on him, and he's very generous with information and guidance and all of that. And if you want to talk about a nationalist and a patriot, is that gentleman, So thank you so much. And as he always say, anything worth doing is worth doing well. Mr. Duncan, you did it well. So now dance off, Mr. D. For now.
Brenda, I want to talk about a legal matter this morning. Two legal matters.
Come in, counsel.
Two legal matters. The first one has to do with the fact that Grenada has now launched an initiative to reform the rights of common law spouses. And I think this is excellent, to bring equality to this. So cohabiting partners would have the right to apply for spousal maintenance in the event of a relationship breakdown. Or legal reform also, this would address the rights of the division of property when cohabiting partners split up. Before it was only quote-unquote legal marriages where you can have this facility. So now women, male women mostly here, that have been cohabiting, living in common law, will have those rights. And I think this is a significant development. The UN and the EU is in fact financing this social program development, this reform. And I think this is an interesting development for Grenada because of the fact that when we hear the statistics here, we learn that 45% of households in Grenada are headed by single women. But when they say single women, a lot of them are single in the sense they're not formally married, but they're unmarried. They're into relationship. Yeah. And they have very little rights, particularly when they're a division of property and other, they're thrown out of the house. And you see this all the time. So the law as is was not supporting or protecting our women.
Absolutely.
Mostly, so this is a very important development.
It follows the principle of a child is a child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, if you were born out of wedlock, as a child, you didn't have certain rights as those born within the marriage sanctum.
Yeah.
Now, it's a similar thing that's being developed for our women in common law relationships, or men in common law relationships. Okay, it happens on
common
both
law
sides.
period.
And if you can establish, and I suspect when the law comes out, they're going to have time limits on how long you have been in the relationship and what happens and so on, your contribution
splitting up assets.
to the assets and the development of assets, and then, so typically now in divorce matters, that is only when you come to partitioning of assets and how it's done and so on. And it is good to see that development. I think we need to protect our partners in any relationship, whether it's the male or the female. So it is something that I think is a welcome. It's something that needs to be discussed as widely as possible, so people get to understand their rights or not under this type of relationships. And you know what's happening. I mean, the religious people might say, we encourage in common law relationships because we're giving them the same legal rights.
Well, you see, the thing,
and that is a kind of fall off that you will have to manage. But
even if it's not about encouraging, because I think what this law is attempting to do and what law should do is to make the whole society fit for living and address the broad principles of justice. Natural justice for everyone. I am aware of a situation only in the last 5 months where a couple lived together for 23 years. They were engaged for about 10 years, right? That's a whole other conversation. But anyway, and they acquired assets together. There's one child in this union, and there are other children the gentleman had outside of the outside of the union. But there was a house, there's a car, there's a piece of land, there's business, and it is equity on both their parts. However, mother, when he died, mother, sister, family members, everybody just moved in and moved the lady out.
That's good.
And they have now acquired what was left in the bank. What is the only thing I think the only leg she can basically stand on now is, what the child can get. And there are so many, facets to this. I mean, that people, live together for such a long time. And, they die. And then, yes, the priests and the pastors and the apostles and the bishops, they would probably say, this law attempting to address, and we should be encouraging people to get married and no fornication. But I'm sure they will also understand the fairness of it. So I am in full support of this because this has happened. This really is something that is happening in our country, and we need to address it.
Reality on the ground.
And that's what law should attempt to do. Remedy the unjust situation.
The other legal matter, I'm not a lawyer this morning, but the other legal
matter. Come in, counsel, come in.
The other legal matter I want to bring to our attention is that, and it came about, I was reviewing a recent human rights report in Grenada, and it surfaced there that the issue of flogging and whipping.
God.
And it's cruel, it's inhumane and degrading punishment for Grenada. And I think it shows a very bad image on us. You know, it's a law that's there, it's been used because it could be used for juvenile offenders. They could be whipped in lieu of flogging. And it's coming across, I mean, even Saudi Arabia has, the way they have Sharia law, and other Muslim countries have removed flogging because it's a major human rights issue. We've signed to these conventions. And I know Jerry Edwin has been articulating this for a long time. In other words, I see although some parliamentarians here, I know one very well, who has argued that it should be used on occasions for sexual crimes and others. I think we have to look at the bigger picture and say, look, it's inhumane, and it's a law that serves no real purpose on the books. It gives the country a very, very bad image, and it violates the rights of persons, regardless of the severity of their crimes, Chris.
Well, yes, and you know, the arguments for this could be pro and con and very passionate and sensitive.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I say that from the context of growing up in an environment where I got flogged for doing wrong things.
Yeah.
And I know there are times when this could be an abusive level of treatment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for prisoners, we know of the Cat O' Nine in the days and how many things were as part of your sentence, that was part of your punishment, how much strokes you will get and so on. And I understand there is that element to it as well in terms of, you know, it could be seen as an abusive form of punishment. But Sharia law also will talk to removing flogging, but they have stoning.
Stoning and beheading.
And and so I mean, you have to weigh these things. And another form of argument, Byron, you know, if you put a child in school stand up to face the wall because they be behaving bad, could that be as bad as flogging?
Of course it is.
You understand? Because imagine you stand up for half an hour, 45 minutes facing a wall, and the teacher tell you do turn back.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is another type of punishment that could be looked at as being severe to the child. So, you know, this punishment thing has been wrong, and we've been discussing this, and there are very varying views on it, on what is critical. And, you know, we have seen the American formula of, you know, constantly talking to our children about what is right and what is wrong, but with social media, no. And what it has done and how it has crept in, children know the lines for me is blurred significantly what we consider to be morally correct and what is wrong. Look at the situation in the United States with shootings in schools and the young people that are doing these things and coming up with these ideas. And the question has to be, where is the root cause analysis of this? We talk about all kind of psychoanalysis situations. Are they exposed to or they're not exposed to, and this is causing it, or they're exposed to violent games, or, you know, we come up with all of these things. But I think at the core of this is parenting. And the breakdown in the family structure. And, you know, most of us who have come up in a strict family structure, you will have your aunts and your uncles apart from your parents, excuse me, keep on reminding you of what is your proper behavior in certain circumstances. And it doesn't always have to be flogging, but the threat of flogging sometimes is to keep us square. And you have to, you know, so I think that discussion is an emotive one. It will continue to be a wrong. Our culture in the Caribbean has been around the flogging issue.
But Chris, we are, as far as I know, we're the only country in the Caribbean where flogging is there. It is a violation of international human rights. It is degrading and inhumane. It gives prison officials the right to flog persons of the unknown.
Well, I mean, removing it from the books don't mean it will stop it.
Well, yeah, but we need, and it gives us as a country a very bad, very negative. And we fall short in our report. I look at the Grenada 2019 Human Rights Report, and it says flogging for traffic violations. You know, it's
we don't ever use those things. It may be there in the books.
A famous.
Right now, if you had to get prisoners.
In this beautiful paradise, we flog it for traffic violations. Anyway,
remember there was a magistrate not long ago.
Yes.
That
articulated
it's on the books. It's on the books.
I think some bus drivers got
we have something called hard labor.
We don't want.
You can't get our prisoners to go and work hard labor now. You know, before we say our prisoners cutting the grass around public institutions and doing that and so on.
I think that, gentlemen, you know, I think there's two things here.
Yeah.
There's two things here. what we have to attempt to address, here we are in 2021. And we want to break away from our colonial past and from whence we came. Don't mean to wax historic here, but that's where I come from, right? And so I am one who do not believe in using violence as a consequence. So using violence to correct violence, or using violence to correct misdemeanor. At the same time, there must be a consequence or a punishment for violations. So we remove flogging, then what do we attempt to address? And if we remove flogging for, let's say, 99 violations, do we leave it for one? Let's say for the rape of a child. You know, so that sort of thing. I don't think flogging en masse is really healthy or helpful. And I'm not saying we remove it because we want to fit in with the rest of the world, but we need to examine our own set of unique circumstances and what it is about flogging that's either working or not working. We may find that a lot of it is not working, as you say, Mr. Campbell, and then we just have, because we have to address consequences in this country. We are going down a path where consequential redress seeming to be, well, it depends on who you are and what you do, or even where you stand, yellow or green and that sort of thing. And that needs to stop. So consequences we need to address. Severe punishment for things like rape and all of that. So that is what, look on Facebook here, Brian Grimes is asking, so when you eliminate severe punishment, how do you deal with vicious crimes? That's my point.
Police. Flogging is a violation of international human rights. We, at the UN, documents we've signed to. We are part of an international community. Bottom line, when we produce our reports on Grenada human rights, this surfaces. It's a bad image for the country. It's not helping us. We have an obligation to abide by treaties, by declarations we've signed to.
So
there's no debate on it. It has to be
as we abide by treaties, as Grimes is asking here, how do we deter vicious crimes? How do we address that then?
This is another issue.
No, but we have to address them.
You can't link flogging with the issues that you have.
Mr. Campbell,
you have to remove it because you have an obligation as a country to remove it. That's another conversation we could have. These are other social and other issues.
Mr. Campbell, so if flogging, let's say flogging is the only consequence, this is an example here. Let's say flogging is the only redress or consequence for you, let's say, violating the traffic light, right? As I remove flogging, what do I replace it with? That's what I'm saying. As we remove flogging, what do we replace it with? So the conversation of removing flogging, which I 100% agree, nobody should be flogged. Nobody. Even the rapists. Find other severe punishment for them. Nobody should be flogged, not in our ethnic group especially, and not in this world of 2021. No one should be flogged. That's how I see it. But as we remove flogging, Mr. Campbell, we're talking about it. We, at the same time, I believe the conversation needs to be parallel.
You have some people that articulate it, bring back the cat to life.
The cat.
Somebody
said that?
Yeah. Bring it back.
When I read it,
the cat to life.
I am. Look. The question. I'm aware of the issues in terms of the escalations we've had in sexual violence against women in particular. But when I read the laws of the criminal code and talk about plaiting several strands of the timbre and whip. This is slavish. This is
that's what I'm saying.
We need to remove these from our books.
But let me tell you about
it is offensive to me.
Listen, we are agreeing. We are agreeing on that.
That it should be removed.
Yes.
So you want to move on to something else now, Brenda?
The UN.
No. I am saying when we remove it, we still need.
But it's not a deterrent. You see, it hasn't. It's never been a deterrent.
Well, let me just put this to you this way with the UN, and I'll end there on this topic. The UN have all these lovely things about we sign on to and what we should do and inhumane and so on. Let's talk about hanging. And whether or not that is a severe punishment for crimes that have not worked. But the same United States in Texas have the electric chair.
Yes.
And they kill people based on certain things once you're sentenced and so on. And the question is that humane? Is there other forms of punishment we could do, life sentence and so on and so whatever we could use? So, I mean, we talk about these things, but you know, the playing field is never level. For us in the Caribbean and small island states, they will insist that we remove it or penalize us in some form. But they never penalize other countries. That when you talk about hanging compared to electric chair, what is the difference? To me, what is the difference? It's just one more gruesome, appears more gruesome than the other.
It's just capitalism continues. Remember we said some, I come back again, they come back in various forms.
I only say that to say that this world is not level, and it's the same thing that they try to push in our agreements. Our Prime Minister says here that under his watch, currently, he's not in favor of same-sex marriages and these types of arrangements. And some people will think that is very unprogressive because the society is progressing along that line.
But that's something we need to address as well.
And he have said that, he has declared his position. But we see now that aid coming to us in these countries are tying that in. And if you don't have that, buggery is another one. They don't want to take off the law books.
Because buggery and, all right, so the buggery might be part of a homosexual act, but buggery on its own, it's not. Correct. It's not homosexual, right? So these are things we need to address because buggery on our books is an offense.
Well, this is interesting.
So if somebody
you raised this because I'm reading here Grenada 2019 Human Rights Report, and this is what it says about it. Significant human rights issues including criminalization of consensual same-sexual activity between men, although the law was not enforced during the year.
Yes, and there's a point. That's the point I'm saying. And they're forcing us now in these regions because of aid and aid packages to go along that line.
But no, it cannot be addressed because even if you are aware of people that are in same-sex relationships, right, or men because of their genetic makeup, that's where the buggery part comes from, right? Let's use proper language here. Right? You cannot just say, because you are aware that here is a same-sex couple, that you're going to arrest them or cite them for buggery. How do you do that? So it is just nonsensical. It is something that just needs to get off the books.
And it only applies to male.
You know, but
of course, because of the genetic makeup of the male.
We have to be careful.
That's discriminatory. You know?
It's discriminatory?
Absolutely. You know?
The one thing we're not taking into consideration here is our culture.
Oh gosh, we need to stop.
Caribbean people. You know, we strongly religious as a Caribbean people, and the culture with that and the arguments for or against. But you know, we are getting into a world where now, you know, I was recently told at the corporate level, we are being they are chatting to us now that they're getting rid of the Mr. and Mrs. If I am to address a letter to Brenda, I know Brenda to be female, I will address Brenda as Mrs. or Miss. Now they're saying you have to be neutral in the gender address and address it MX.
In professional, no, that is not even new. And I have always had a trouble with that. And in Grenada here, it's a big problem. When you are in formal language, in communicating in formal letters and so on, you are supposed to be neutral. I see these things where these letters coming from formal business places. Brenda Baptiste in bracket, MRS. For what? Brenda is a woman. Just Miss Brenda Baptiste. I don't know what the MRS is for. You call a place and you say,
it don't have to be
good
MRS,
morning,
but
good morning,
I know you as Miss. If you're not MRS, I address you as Miss because it reflects your gender. When you come and tell me MX, so what are you addressing?
MS?
Or MX. MX is a new thing.
No,
MX.
No.
It's not MS, it's MX. It's not Mr. Yes.
MX for what?
MX, that is the point. That's
well,
the neutrality.
I'm a robotic? No.
That's the neutrality of the thing. That is where we're going with this.
Or
No. Not MS or MR.
No, we're getting crazy. We're getting crazy.
No, you cannot register a child. If you're in the US now and your child borns female or male, you cannot register them as a female or male until the child is of an age to decide what their sex is.
Or what they want their sex to be.
Or what they want their sex to be. That is where this world is heading. So I'm saying, no, you just don't register them until they get and You know,
so how they capture it?
I am not certain, but this is now happening.
Okay.
This is happening.
I thought
in
you said
countries.
MS.
No, MX.
Yeah, because let me tell you, there's a big problem here. You know, I called a place recently. I asked to speak to a lady. She was pleasant. She was professional. She was really sweet. But every time I said Miss, let's say like I said Miss Allie, she corrected me 3 times. Yeah. Mrs. Yeah. On the 3rd Mrs. I said, well, I mean, I'm talking to a female, so I'm just saying Miss. I'm not trying to degrade your married status. Yeah. I just find we attach too much nonsense to it.
No, but I'm just saying, I say that I raise this point only to see
MX.
that we are heading down a road where you have to have gender neutral.
Senator Allie, you better get with it.
Gender neutral washroom facilities for when we build buildings like Parliament and so on. Yeah. You have male, female, and you have a gender neutral one.
The new society.
Yeah, and you know, it begs the question, where are we heading with this? Yeah. You know, and with all due respect to LGBTQI, whatever acronyms now they're attaching, you know, I's intersex and all of that, it gets us more confused, I think, on what is...
Because I asked somebody recently, we were having this conversation about the toilet, so I say, what does a hermaphrodite do? Where do they go? You know, do they go to the male toilet? Do they go to the female toilet? Yeah. And the individuals say that in the United States, where there are a lot of those sorts of folks that they call transgender and so on, that most of there are facilities where they go to.
Well,
and I'm like, we don't have that.
We just saw this recent thing in IOC. We are coming to Olympics. Yeah. International Olympic Organization committee just said and put out a release that you could declare yourself transgender and run a race with females. A male who have declared themselves to be transgender could go and run in a race with females.
But that would be tested in terms of the hormones level? Or
no. They said the only way to stop it, the women in the race will have to launch a appeal to
protest.
Not only that, protest and to prove that the person has a definitive advantage over them. Now, could you imagine a male like Bolt running down 100 meters with his compatriots from Jamaica and so on, Price and so on? I mean, come on. Where are we going with this? Yeah. And there's the International Olympic Committee that have made this ruling
because definitely our societies are changing.
Because they're facilitating this transgender thing, and
our societies are changing.
It's destroying, in my view, my humble view, watching a totally female event that is now going to be incorporating males in this. And you know, we had this example of the South African girl that was a long distance runner who had a certain physique and so on, and they banned her and they put her through many tests because she's female, but her physique is probably looking more male, and she had a definitive advantage in a way. I mean, we get to the place in the world where I think a lot of us culturally who have been contextualized in a certain way is going to confuse us. And when our children, I mean, I don't know about this thing about, you know, declare yourself to be a transgender type person, and as a result you get these rights to do these things.
You're familiar with basketball, right?
Of course.
So Dwayne Wade of the Miami Heat, he have these children, and when he have 3 boys? Yeah, well 4, but 3 on the up. So when the son and the second son, the one in the middle of the 3, when he got to just the other day, about 9, he declared he wanted to be a girl. He said he don't feel like a boy, you know, and so they facilitated his change. And you know, I looked at the father and the mother, you know, not his biological mother, but the father's wife, because they are raising the boys. And I looked at them talk about it, and I mean, as a father, you can see a male athlete who is so, you know, but when it comes to your child, it is a whole other matter. So it looked as if for the love of his child, he had to find ways to put aside, you know, what he would want to see as his son, you know, Brenda, but this child telling him that this is how I feel, Dad, and this is how I want to be.
Physiological change is one.
You know,
there is a mental side to this, because we have had these changes happen, and when they change from, say, male to female, and they recognize that they still have male thinking and thoughts because they want to come back, and some of them commit suicides and so on because there's a emotional and mental side to this that to me doesn't totally make the change over. The physiological part is easy, with the science, but you have to change the mindset, the emotional set, all of that has to change.
Because remember, the bubble in which they live, which is us, the society, remember, we are not running to support that. So I'm sure in many respects, they feel very isolated. So naturally we'll play on the psyche.
Confused as to what to support. That is the point.
Because we were raised a certain way.
Whether or not you were raised a certain way, we're confused. When you go to a place and they tell you, I am transgender and whatever the case may be.
Yes, because the story of creation, you're either male or you're female. That's how we're raised.
That is what we were given. we were male.
That's how we're raised, yes. So now here we are turning into different things.
Well, I don't know.
So
I am listening to you
we're
guys,
morphing into different things.
I don't have so much expertise or opinion on
we
this,
have a listener. Senator Allie. We have to have these conversations in Grenada.
Of course.
We have a very young society. Younger folks are more open when it relates to matters of sex and community and that sort of thing.
And I always look at my children as an example.
Right. So I think we have to lay the groundwork where a child can come to us and say, Mommy, Daddy, Auntie, Grandma, this is how I feel.
Brenda, there's nothing wrong with that. We can discuss what we feel all the time.
And we can't keep telling the child
where we bring these things. You understand? And there's absolutely I'm not saying it's not here. What I'm saying is that our societies, those of us, I have said to my kids, when I was growing up, you would think homosexuality was a bad word, and you were culturalized that way. That it is totally unnatural, right? To put different words to it. And that is how we are cultural. So I grew up having this absolute, thing about them. But my children, who have been conditioned, and their mind have been conditioned since they're growing up, exposure to media and what is happening in the world, they don't have the same passionate rebuke as I have towards that type of lifestyle. And they would say to me, Daddy, that is their business. If they want to do it, let them do it. Once it affect me. And they move on. And
if we have friends who are that way, we respect and we love them just the same.
I may have a different approach and a rebuke to it because of my culturalization, and I don't intend to change my culturalization.
What's your approach, Chris?
Huh? My culturalization would not change. I've said so publicly in Parliament.
So you don't believe it's biological and there's nothing they can do about it?
I'm not saying that they are not exceptions to the rule. What I will say, I always say to my friends, I would respect you as a professional and human being, but that's as far as it goes. Because I oppose that level of lifestyle. I do.
But you don't believe it's a natural and it's biological and there's nothing?
No, I don't believe I think it's a decision that is made.
So I don't think so, Chris.
I've given him 150% for diplomacy, because as he's talking, you should see the color of his hair. It's pink.
I am clear about that. I said so. It's nothing that I have not. All of us have lines, and that's mine.
That's your line.
Yeah. And you must respect it.
And your children, they're not able to influence you otherwise.
No. And that is my culturalization. And I'm happy to be there. In that space. I have no problem with that space.
How about in your professional space? Have anyone ever? How do you feel if somebody applies for a position, let's say at your firm, or if you? I'm sure you have sat on a lot of interview panels and so on, and you meet with someone. Did that change how you feel about them as it relates to their skills and competencies and so on?
Most of us in the corporate world now have been instructed that you cannot discriminate based on your level of sexual orientation. That is clear. Even with the transgender type approaches, you have to evaluate a person on what they bring to the job or to the position that whatever they are, you have to, that is what your analysis is on. The other side to that discussion though is how do they come in, when they come into your organization, the culturalization with other employees and how it may or may not affect them. I may have a employee pool that anti-same-sex type relationships. I bring in a same-sex person and they flaunt their same-sex thing, and it causes some sort of anxiety within the staff.
Define flaunt.
Well, some of them are more male who are more female in terms of their approach and their orientation and what they do every day. And that could cause sensitivities within your staff, anxieties within your staff. Some men who are and if it's a male that is behaving, I say, I won't want to sit in the same room with him to have lunch. So it creates those sort of tensions that you also have to manage and look at. It's not just about the discrimination and bringing them in based on their ability and how they can perform and what they do. And rightfully so, when you look at same-sex people, they do. And some of them are extremely good and bright and excellent in what they do, but there's another side to the conversation.
Chris, there's also an economic aspect to it. I remember some time ago there were part of the cruise industry where, have the specialized cruising for same-sex persons. And Grenada, I believe, and some other Caribbean countries were reluctant to accept these ships in because of what they felt would be a reaction from the local population to them, so it's something that's going to happen more and more. We're going to see that if we continue this position, we're going to be losing an economic
one of our brightest prime ministers in the Caribbean is a declared same-sex individual. And she has said so, continues to live that life, and she's one of our brightest and best right now.
And Chris, I have to talk about this woman.
But
her sexual orientation has nothing to do with her job and how she articulates on behalf of her country and internationally as well.
And she's doing a good job.
I'm not saying it has anything to do with their ability. It is an issue of acceptance or non-acceptance, and it goes back to our religious context, historical context, and how that marries. But I suppose, Brenda, you will say we're getting there.
We are already there, and I think the sooner we embrace that our society is changing is better for us. And I am one who believes and respect people, whatever people want to identify as. If I am, bouncy, bubbly, bountiful Brenda, who want to identify as Brandon on Friday, I believe somebody should respect that.
And so this conversation
and
is welcome.
As well as I've never understood why people's to me, sex is a private thing. Your sexual orientation is a private thing. So I never understand why we get so hung up about because somebody's sexual orientation is different to ours, why we so incensed by it. Once they don't step to us, I never see why we're so incensed by it. So I am very open where these things are concerned.
Because
let's bring it on.
It is what it is.
Brenda, you were talking a while ago about sports, and what it came to my mind that, and something was mentioned in the budget about the cricket here coming up, and the fact that $5 million was allocated to improving the stadium. We frequent here, I frequent the stadium, and it's an important facility for the country. Like all facility, maintenance is critical and important, because there was some, listening to debate and the echoing recommendation that money should have been used for other purposes, maybe some cultural development, maybe so, but I know from the numbers I've seen that $5 million is coming as a grant from the Republic of China, government of people of China. And it's important that we maintain this investment and we get support to maintain this investment. It is critical, it's important for the sport, and for the sport is a form of culture also, we should understand. And also the facility is used for other purposes and other functions. So I hear the argument, but I think we must understand what's happening and why. It's not finance you can redirect somewhere else.
And Byron, we have forever had this argument, about where we put priority and where we put monies. And that is a forever argument. You could always argue, use the $5 million for health, use it for education, use it for something else. That is an argument we have forever had. The issue, I think, for governments and people who are in there is how do you put enough money in enough areas? You will always get criticized. Okay, you put $5 million in sport. This is a sporting facility. Years ago, when we didn't have the Olympics, the Olympic track, and the kind of surfaces we had, or athletes, never got to an international standard. You
Correct.
could argue now that that has helped, and some people will tell you, no, it hasn't helped, but you have those arguments.
5 in one Olympics.
But, these are
4
things
Olympic medals.
that you can't put monetary value to. How do we monetize what Kirani has done for our country and the medals he have won? You can't monetize that.
And all these people.
Right? And part of you really can't monetize is how would he influence younger people to aspire to that? And you could argue these things.
We have world champions and Olympians.
Yes, you can argue this forever. And I am saying that every government have the areas that they would like to see develop over others. That argument has been going on in agriculture for years. We'll say, okay, we give education in this budget 100 and something million or whatever million we're giving them, and we give agriculture less. Does that mean we don't prioritize agriculture over education, or we prioritize one over the other?
They're both important.
But Senator Allie, would you agree as well that because you're calling all these areas, and because each of them are important, they are all priorities, They
are all.
So it's like sometimes when you're cooking on a Sunday, just have 5 pots on the fire. Sometimes everything is on the fire. So you have to address all of it.
Kirani name mentioned just now. There's I saw something on media where some proposal that he be not awarded, but
declared a national hero. Oh, without a doubt.
I have no issues with those things, because you see, there's an intangible part to these things that we don't pay attention to, that we can't put actual things to it.
We have not mastered treating ourselves well.
And that is part of the problem. And so when I hear those conversations about where money could be allocated versus not, I don't pay the attention as I ought to. Probably as a bad thing.
Or just a debating strategy.
Every government, every politician will have their own priorities that they like to see based on their conditions and what they see happening. This facility cannot be argued is in a terrible state. Infrastructure-wise, in the areas of seating,
it's time for it to be sorted
and all of that. And we know how bad it is. So, I mean, if you don't take care of it, they're going to say, oh, look at what you do. You spend, you get all this money to build this, and you ain't taking care of it. You fall down and you mash up. Right? So you have to do it as well.
And it's not a $5 million for a 5-day
for repayment, yes.
It's improving the facility over the medium and long term.
It's an investment.
It's an investment, exactly.
So I
thought it was important to put some reasoning into this.
Remove the stadia from Grenada. This one and the athletic, and then let's talk about what we will have at this time.
I heard over the weekend some people articulate about the same agriculture thing in the budget now and how it's and we have been preaching for years the linkage between tourism and agriculture. There's nothing new, Byron, you know that. You have a lot of years on me, and I mean that you have been around longer than me. You're in the agricultural field, you know what is happening. But there is always, I always say, the biggest problem we have in agriculture is not pest control, is not policy, is not all of that, and money, is the labor issue. Labor. All of us who are in agriculture, Byron, myself, and so on, our greatest challenge is getting folks to work.
That's true.
And to work. 99% of the people who work in the agricultural field don't work from 7 in the morning till 3.
No. What about management?
But they want the same pay per day as somebody who is doing that same work.
What about management?
There is that aspect. But what you're going to manage? You can't get people to work. What are you managing? It's people that we manage, in every sphere of work or business that we in.
But I raised the point of management. Remember, we spoke about it. We had I think when we had Mr. Duncan, twice we spoke about it. Mr. Archibald, we spoke about it with him. And I remember when Ambrose was here as well, Ambrose Phillip, that the weakness that we have is the reluctance, or I shouldn't use the word reluctance, but in financial institutions, seeing agricultural business as risk. So that is why I raised the management point of view. Because when you come to an institution,
what creates the risk?
I'm asking you.
Well, I'm telling you, what creates the risk is.
So that's where management comes in as well. So isn't that management?
Yeah, when you're root cause, that's not management. The root cause problem. When you go to the root cause, Byron struggles to get people to come to his place. If he has to pick his 1,000+ oranges, he struggles to get that. And even though when they come and they pick it in a fashion that destroys the fruit as well. So, it is a difficulty in all, I don't know any agricultural person, whether you're picking up nutmeg, you're cutting bananas,
you have reliable labor.
You have reliable labor.
It's an issue, and I saw it, because the government had two support programs. One, they had a debushing program, which is important, providing very, very important livelihoods to persons. And then they had support farm labor
support.
And the labor shifted to the bushing, and it was not available for the farm labor because they found it easier to do the bushing program. So it manifested itself even there, But I agree with Chris. Labor is unreliable, intermittent, and you cannot depend.
But you've just identified something that needs addressing, because if you're going to have one set of individuals doing labor on the roads, so let's say the people doing road labor, and then you have farm labor. A person doing stuff in the road does not necessarily transfer into a person that can do farm labor. Senator Allie spoke about how you pick the fruit, and you don't destroy. Somebody that comes in and don't understand, they see things and they don't understand that it's mulching you're doing, and then they just, so that, to me, right, you need farm labor.
You do.
And then you need the people to do the road. So it can't be a thing where you're just counting up numbers and you're racking up bodies. So okay, we need to send them up by Mr. Campbell farm. So let me take them from Cherry Hill and send them up by Mr. Campbell. Those people need to be.
But let me tell you what the issue is. The issue is, if I come in the debushing program, I start at 6 or 7 in the morning. By 9:10 I'm finished. Right, based on my work allocation.
So
and I get $60-$70 pay. A farm laborer comes to Byron farm. Byron, he gets there at 7 o'clock, and he or she wants to finish by 9:10. Byron said, no, you have to stay till 3 o'clock.
It's a longer time. So it's a different discipline that's
applied. That's right. And Byron is offering the same $70 for one that will have to work 7 hours or 6 hours versus one that's working for 2-3 hours.
So you've answered my point. It's a different set of people.
And
different mindset. To me, some kind of training needs to happen.
We have created the problem, and that is why you'll see everybody move from farm labor support to debushing. Because I am a worker, I get in the same amount of money for less hours of work in a hot sun. Why am I going to do it? I mean, come on. That don't make no sense. Even though Byron giving me an incentive, we all human beings, we know what we do.
Well, that says something about all of us.
And
not some of us.
That will take me down the road. Attitude to work. I want to go there. Attitude to work. I'm going there.
Exactly. So that's why I said it nicely,
How are you preparing for your budget debate, Senator, next week?
Well, yes. We start on the 13th, the upper house. We got our documents last week, so you have a number of things to read.
But more importantly, though, what you've heard so far, based on those who, because the budget was presented, and then last week there were presentations. Did you hear anything that kind of lead you to a point that so this is being addressed, we need to do better here, this is relevant, this is what have you heard so far?
My thing is that when you hear people who oppose what was presented, it is opposing. We've heard of tokenism, and we've heard of what could go differently, where they could do it better, and so on. That will always be there. My form of analysis of budget and so on is you have to take it in context. What is the context we present in this budget in? We're in a pandemic. We're in a situation where the economy has suffered. What does the government need to do to stimulate? Because that is a big part of government, and creating livelihoods and balancing that with what we have. So I thought the theme of the budget, so I look at the theme, I look at the context, what we have. There is a medium-term strategy paper, there's a debt paper, there's a paper dealing with risk, upside and downside. So I look at all of those and then formulate my response. The issue here is this response adequate? Is it what people expect? Some people call it election budget, and so on. You could call it what you want based on what your philosophy is and what you're trying to promote.
There are words and there's reality.
But I always say I'm not a politician. When I do the analysis of the budget, I look at it from that context. What is the benefit to the country, the private sector, who I represent, and not this budget has gone out of its way to put spending power into the hands of people through its various social programs, through various programs like what Byron through the construction sector, movements in agriculture. There's a strategic part to it as well. And you could criticize up or down, and that is fair. And they could do more here or less here and so on, and that's fair. But at the end of the day, if the government says that for our people and livelihoods, we need to get economic activity, this is how I'm going to do it, I think that is positive. And it must send a message to people that I am investing in programs, whether it's through construction, agriculture, or education, that I am looking to see how we could grow this and do this better. And you will never get it right. No government, in my view, in this environment has the right formula. There is none. We are budgeting for 2022. We don't know what is going to happen in January with Omicron. All of us in the private sector have budgeted for 2022, but the one caveat in our minds and in the background is what happens if this happens and that happens. It changes the entire complex. And what do we do and how do we react?
Unpredictable.
It's very unpredictable. So yes, you're planning. Yes, you have to plan. You cannot operate without plans, but you have to constantly understand the adjustments in the environment. And if the pandemic haven't taught us anything, is our ability to respond now to things like that when it happens. And it's not just a pandemic, it is your people it's affecting.
Correct.
You know, when we had chikungunya, I always say, you got up one morning and you're good, and by the time you're going home in the evening, you can't move. Chikungunya, paralyzes you. And we still have people with effects of chikungunya. Through their joints and this and that. And you know, we don't understand the long-term effects to the society and these things. So it is for us, how do we respond to the people aspect? And I think this budget spoke to that to some degree, and that is important. Because,
as you said, people aspect, I was reading a survey from the UNDP over the weekend. It was posted in the Barbados today. I should share it with you. You'd be very interested in something like that. And they did a survey, and it showed how that women who had made so much progress in the Caribbean and Latin America over the past 3 years, they showed that in careers and so on, that women had regressed because of the pandemic, because the unemployment in the Caribbean and Latin America as it relates to women is about 80%.
That's right.
And I found that staggering.
Small cottage industry.
Correct.
That is where they are.
And so they in responding, one of the recommendations from UNDP was that in this time, governments will not be popular, but what they will be doing is pressed to address the needs of their people, because so many people, the theme is dislocation, the theme is loss, the theme is, you know, so how do we manage this? And then it is novel again for everyone, because you're doing it for the first time.
We are critical of things that are happening. I always say, when you're in the kitchen, you know how much heat you have. And it's easy to stay on the outside and criticize this program, that program, and talk about efficiencies and so on. Byron, you know what I'm talking about. In your particular program, SEP and so on, there have been inefficiencies as everything, and you have to work to improve and do it better. But when you look at Byron's program and how much they're trying to affect youth, because youth unemployment is a big thing for us, and how much opportunity they're presenting.
But training, the amount of training they do as well.
We don't talk about these things. And our program, when I spoke about NAWASA as being one of the best run institutions in the world, you know, and somebody say, well, I heard that comment, we never knew about that. But we went to an international forum from Green Climate Funds, and here it was, these guys internationally don't know Christopher Husbands for nothing, as I said to you, and rated him up.
Let me give you a simple thing, because you know, sometimes I think, and I said, why should the conversation be more positive? Why shouldn't it be more positive? Because we have a lot of positive.
You know why?
Let me give you one example, Chris, where Grenada is standing. There is the Basic Need Trust Fund. There's a program, it's a grant financing program that is administered by the Caribbean Development Bank for 13 countries.
That's been around a long time.
We're just completing cycle 9 of this program. And Grenada was ace in its implementation. So much so, it got about $1.5 million as a bonus for its implementation rate. It was 100%. It was perfect. Let me tell you this. And I mean, we don't see this. And what did they implement? They implemented a number of pre-primary school, modern primary schools. They did things like community roads. They did things like water systems, working with NAWASA, collaborating with the private sector. So these are things positive for Grenada. We have a good regional image of our ability to do things.
That's a point. And,
so sometimes I think about that. I know this, and I'm saying, who knows this? Should we be airing this
I never
more?
knew that,
Exactly.
and that is a point. And that is the point I'm making. Here it is that we're doing so well, and You know, years ago in the politics, we talk about corruption and who corrupt and who incorrupt and so on. But here it is, this small country is assessed by the IMF, assessed by international bodies for grant funding, and they don't think we that corrupt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is the thing. And you know, so yes, I understand politicking and what you have to do and what. But in my disappointment in our politics here is that we never seem to commend where there is a good thing going. Yeah. We gloss it over. We don't say anything. Over,
by the way,
we don't say anything, and then we harp on the things that we think, you know, could probably get us to a different place.
Why do you think it works? Why do you think it sticks?
Well, because our people have been almost over the years is about promises. So I come to you on a political campaign and I said, you know, I can give you, using loose things here, I can give you 2 more t-shirts than 1. You know, and I am happy with that. And our people will say, yeah, man, or I could vote, or I put in your in so that when I come by you every week to ask you for gas and so on, I could get. Yeah. So there is that psyche to it. I put somebody there that could constantly give me that. There isn't a psyche about, boy, better I look for a job. Could they give me more jobs? Could they create more environments where the job situation could be better so I could get myself, instead of going and beg for the fish, I could fish for myself. In that sense. So there is that aspect to it that our politicians have to take blame for, because they play on that to get it done, and then when it falls down now socially and otherwise, they quarrel. But it is they who encourage it as well, because it is for the 5-year term vote and so on. And you know, we, as I said,
as you mentioned, that nothing positive comes out about a conversation about the politics when someone is opposing. They don't credit, you know, whatever good that may happen by their opponent. And I asked, why do you think that happens? Because I'm coming from a place that our politicians are not from Mars. Our politicians represent us. They come from us, our society. So they're basically who we are. And the reason I ask why it sticks, I believe it sticks because that is who we are. We are very critical people. We condemn each other. Anything good is for me. Nothing good is for Byron. Byron, you look nice enough, but oh, look at black spot on your tie. We focus on the little black speck on the tie. That is the kind of people we are. That is why it's sticking.
Our politicians is a reflection of us.
It is our society.
Never lose that.
If we behaving bad,
you know,
whoever leading behaving bad. It comes from us.
That's what it is.
It comes from us.
That's what it is.
Talking about coming from us, we gotta run.
That's true. But I hope you have the right shoes for running.
And today you have to have on the right shoes for running, the right tires for driving, the right attire. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This is quite a spirited conversation this morning.
And Brenda, I can't close without saying we had to watch the pandemic. We haven't spoken about this, but I see some numbers I don't like. We have a few more infections, and so we need to continue taking the vaccine. Those of us where the booster is available, we should do this.
By the way, I got mine, so.
Very good, Chris.
You got your booster?
You
know there are people in the world that ain't get a vaccine yet?
I know.
So why you want to take a booster?
Because I am a particular individual and have certain comorbidities that I need to protect.
All right, Senator.
Myself,
well
my family,
well
and everybody else.
Well rebutted. Good for you. Good. Yeah. The thing about it is, as I mentioned last week, the more of us remain unvaccinated, is that we out there facing each other. I face a person who is not the thing in me becomes confused. It mutates. More variant. So that's what's happening. So when you see another variant again, because not enough of us are ready to cover
somebody just sent me a notice here saying that as of Monday, December 6th, the Esplanade Mall will be open only to vaccinated persons during the period that the cruise ship passengers are present.
I think the cruise ship has mandated that.
Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So I leave that there. We're going to have another debate on that, I suppose.
Yes, sure.
So let's just say that for the public to know that the Esplanade Mall, that's the Bruce Street complex, the cruise ship terminal as we know it, it will be open only to vaccinated patrons on the days when cruise ships are in port. I'm sure that has been mandated by the cruise authorities. Anyway, we got to go. Have a great week, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us. All the broadcast entities who brought us live this morning, thank you so very much. We appreciate it and we can't thank you enough. Nazim Benjamin for your professional streaming services, thank you. Curl and Dragon, he was our cameraman this morning. Thank you, Curl. Blondell George, our director. director, our executive producer, Richie Oliver, and these great gentlemen here who provided some expert and some energy this morning with the conversation, Mr. Byron Campbell and Senator Christopher Allie. Have a great week, everyone. I'm Brenda Baptiste. Until next Monday, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah.